Okay, time to start this up. Let it warm up. Piece of cake. The gas tank is completely full of gas, so that's a bunch of lies. Okay, I'm going to start the lap timer. It says to go. Oh, I forgot to put my gloves on. Is that one low bike or what? First ride, no modifications whatsoever. The clutch is higher than the brake on the left side. And this is standard shift. Hey. Again, I don't know how this is going to behave. He is going to leave me for dead. Foot out, foot out. That bike should be pretty well set up. There he goes. Two-stroke love. I'm really unsure about the ground clearance on this bike. That's interesting. The tack needle is kind of herky-jerky. I'm not sure what RPM I'm at. The bike works fine. The bike runs fine. But the tack needle is all over the place. Works fine at low RPM. Up higher, I'm not sure. So I don't know if this ECU has been modified. If the ECU has been modified, maybe that's why the tack is doing some weird things. Again, I gotta be really careful on those right-hand corners because I am dragging the muffler. I wonder if this has a positive neutral finder on the Kawasaki. You just pull up. Yeah, once you're stopped, pull in the clutch and just shift up. If you're not moving, it'll go into neutral. What was that sound? Needs to break them in. Wow, that sounded like something's dragging. You need to lose the swing arm extension, and there's a linkage that lowers the bike. Losing the linkage will help get it up to my height. I'm not all that tall, but I have long legs. Careful. Don't drag the muffler. Don't drag the muffler. Be a good boy. Don't drag the muffler. I would say I'm probably well over a minute on my lap times. Probably a minute two. Something like that. Yeah, so on these forks, it's like 2.5 inches. That's lowered the fork 2.5 inches, which is I need that ground clearance. So these, hopefully I can figure out how to remove them. Oh, there's the muffler again. Ah! Oh, gronk, gronk, gronk. Okay, I think that's all the information gathering I need. I'm back home with the Kawasaki today. It's the next day after riding. I'm going to start on putting things back as best I can to stock, or close to. Job number one for today is to get rid of these extensions, which act to lower the bike about 2 inches in front. We'll get some more suspension travel here. To do this, I need to figure out how to lift the front of the bike from the steering stem. So I have my pit bull stand, and I need to figure out which pin, I have a bunch, is going to lift up the front. I have it on the stand on the back. The other job is I'm going to remove these plastic panels so I have more access to things to get the bolts. I am not going to do the swing arm extensions today. The reason is I do not have chain adjusters to go back to using the stock swing arm setup. I need to wait for those to arrive. That's going to take about a week. So I'm going to leave this in place. But here is a lowering link on the shock. What I need to do is remove these two bolts and then mount the shock where that bolt mounts. That will get us a little more ride height on the back and get us closer to getting back on track. The other item here, I'm not sure what this is, but there is a bracket. I guess it's made for lowering the exhaust. Yesterday at the track, we were touching down the exhaust. Not real hard, we were being careful, but this needs to be fixed. It tore the clamp here, or the whatever this is, and took out a pop rivet, it looks like. So we need to fix that. And then this bracket, somewhere up here is going to be the normal mounting point, I think. I'm not sure. I need to find out what this bracket is. If it's for a lowered bike, I don't know why you would bother to lower the exhaust, but I need to get it up because I can't corner the way it is. So maybe we can get that done today. That can be done today. And then the fork, we need to fix that today. So that's the objective. Oh yeah, the other plastic cosmetic piece there, that's gonna come off. That's gonna allow me to get to other things. And oh, I think the other thing was I need to get a pigtail put on the battery tender. Sorry, on the battery for the battery tender so that the bike can stay charged all the time. Anyway, that's the overview for what I'm doing today. So I was removing the bolts to start taking the plastic piece off here. A lot of this pops free. I have noticed here that this seems to all fasten together as one piece. Don't really like that. This is kind of odd. These are two pieces up here. The chrome, or sorry, the gloss. I need to figure out how to separate that to take this panel off. So take the seat off. But what I wanted to point out was while removing plastic pieces, sprocket cover. 1, 2, 3. It's down there behind the foot peg bracket. There's no way I can get a socket on that because this is in the way. That is dumb. Anyway, I'm going to need to take the foot peg off. Fortunately, it's 2 bolts just to take that cover off. Why am I taking the cover off? The linkage on the shift. I would really rather make this GP shift, but while I'm taking body panels off, I'm going to take this one off to take a look at things. The other thing we need to do is replace the chain. That's way too long. I'm going to need a 100 link chain for what I'm doing here, so we need to get access to the sprocket. Anyway, need to get that bolt out right there behind the foot peg. Dumb, dumb, dumb. If they had just put it right here, it would have been fine. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Since these videos are to remind me later what I did to my bike, unbolting this, I am putting the bolts back into the frame and I will tighten these back up. I don't want to have to keep these on a shelf and remember where they are. I will just put them back in. Okay, I've taken the seat off the back of the bike. The key is actually back under there. Anyway, I've learned a few things. I was going to install the lead for the battery tender. battery looks relatively new, but I think I have the answer to why the tach yesterday at a high RPM was going crazy. So take a look at this. It's not immediately obvious, but the lead is loose here. There is no nut holding the electrical connection on. So it's a little bit loose. It's enough for the bike to run and everything else was working, but I think that's why I had the weird tach things going on. So the other finding here is that I was not expecting that to be in there. Previous owner didn't know anything about it. So we have some capability to tune the motor a little bit. I don't know what it needs, what it's lacking, but that's something to explore. I don't know, there's a USB plug in here somewhere, how that works, but did not know that was there. I thought this was a stock system. So that's something to explore. Notes on the side panel are that there is a screw under the seat, and then the one back here that we took out, and then everything else just kind of pops loose. There are grommets on there, just pop them loose. Grommet, 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 grommet. So pretty simple removal. Now that upper black part and the separate lower black part, there are some screws on the back. So I may be able to reattach the upper piece and leave the lower piece that was in the way of the other stuff. So that will fix some of that overexposed setup. Okay, so I took the screws out and now I have two separate pieces here. On the back of the upper piece, this is the one with the fake carbon fiber. Here's where I took the screws out, and I am just going to put the screws back in so that I don't have to go looking for them later if I want to put everything back together. Okay, so I put the piece back on, screwed it back in. Oops, flip that, lock that. It's held on by those rubber grommets. There's nothing right there for it to bolt to, but that's good enough. That leaves me access to get to things, especially when things I want to adjust is the idle speed, so I can get in there now. And then we still have the shock to deal with. This covers the top of the shock, but we don't need to access that. We just need to rebolt that, connect that down to there, and get rid of this aluminum lowering link. Okay, bike's up on the front stand. Took the fender off. We are moving on to... While I'm jockeying things around, here's a dumb little thing that needs to get done. I don't need the horn. That needs to come off. Put a socket on there, take the bolt off, unplug it, and we have a little bit more progress. One, look at the clamp. Here's the lower edge of the range, here's the upper edge, and then it looks like the tubes are flush with the top clamp. So that looks like this is stock. Could slide it up a little bit, probably will. But now I'm going to take the caps off because we want to remove the black extensions, and then move these back down, and we should get our stock ride height back on the front. This is my main tool roadblock for the day. The hexes on here, I don't have a socket that big. The biggest socket I have is a 32. That I think is probably a 34. So I had to get out an adjustable wrench, put that on here, and use big old wrench to just rotate it. Now that it's loose, I just need to loosen the cap. Okay, I have been working on getting these extenders removed. What I had to do was take the headlight off because I had to lower this on the stand. Once lowered, the caps stick up. I was able to get them unscrewed from the extenders. And now I need to take the bolt out to get the cap off. It will look like that when it's done. And then I can get down here to unscrew these extensions and lift them off. Right now the cap prevents them from coming off. So getting closer to getting the extensions off. I did note, had to take the handlebar off to get clearance and everything in here. So a lot was done to the front just to get access for that. Okay, so it took vice grips, not vice grips, but channel locks, wrapped paper towel around it and just gripped it, turned it loose. See, I ended up marking it up, but I don't care. I'm not using the parts anymore. The main thing is it's removed. I can then start to reassemble everything. So I need to do the other side. And I should have stock ride height back on the front. Okay, now that I have the extensions removed, I put the caps back on. I need to tighten down the bolt on top, and then lifting the front of the bike back up on the stand should allow me to tighten down the caps and finish the work. Not much suspension travel down there. That's where it was all being taken. Okay, I've got it back up on the stand. Fork caps went back into place. Time to tighten them up. Next step was I unplugged the switch pod and, for the turn signals, high beam, low beam, removed the handlebars. So now I have the clamp, I'm gonna put the handlebar back on, but I was getting rid of all the electronics. Here's an example of fitting the handlebar next. This is one I had. It's a low-rise handlebar. You can see it pretty much hits the fairing at full lock to the left, full lock to the right. I also have the switch gear that hangs down below the bar. I don't think there's going to be room to fit that. So the handlebar needs to come up on risers, or needs to go forward a little bit more, or a combination of both to get everything to work right. Again, I kind of want the handlebars as low as possible, personal preference, but that's the next thing to figure out that needs to be purchased. Here's an interesting note I hadn't thought of. The clamp, it's not a two-piece. That means it is truly a clamp. You have to slide the handlebar through it to attach it to the bar. Well, I already have a grip glued onto the handlebar, and there's no way to slide this on. Two-piece clamp, piece of cake, 2 bolts, on, off, easy. This one, just the fundamental design, much more work. Not an easy fit up. On the other side, you see it's a 2-piece clamp for the front brake onto the handlebar. Much easier. It almost makes me wonder if I should just look for a different clutch perch so that I could use the stock cable. Got the handlebar clamped on. This is temporary, just some generic clamps. So I can move the bike around, pick it up if I need to. This is a 7/8 inch handlebar. It is flexy to say the least. I want to get a fat bar on there. This is just not very rigid. Not like you need a lot of steering input, but doing tie downs and other things in the truck, there's no crossbar pad here to reinforce it. I just think a fat bar is going to make it less likely to snap a handlebar when it's, cinched down in the truck. Anyway, that gives me the ability to move the bike around a little bit. Got jack stands set up here. I need to put a rod through here, and I'm going to support the back of the bike on jack stands so that I can remove this linkage on the shock so I can get it bolted up where it needs to go. Here's the bolt right in there. And then finish the rear ride height. Then we can take it off stands and move the bike around again. Okay, I am done with this part. I extracted the bolts, extracted the linkage. This now bolts back into the stock swing arm mount point. So that is done. Hopefully we are back to the stock ride height. Swing arm is still extended, but we can take the bike down, and it's relocatable. Waiting for swing arm chain adjusters. We will have to leave everything on here until we get to that point. But that's pretty much it for today. Still need to get rid of this undertail business. Not needed. And put the seat back on. Still need to pull this off. Hey, the gas tank is completely full of gas, so that's a bunch of lies. Lo and behold, after putting the seat back on with the battery all connected solidly, turn the key on here. Interestingly, the gas gauge is no longer flashing, doing weird things. So I think fixing the battery connection and making that solid solved a lot of the problems with the gauges up here. So at this point, I need to finish the handlebars, etc. But getting closer. Time to do that side cover next. It's the end of the first day of the refab, restore, restoration, modification. This is what I've taken off the bike. There is the lowering link for the rear suspension, headlight, turn signals, body panels, horn, sprocket guard, license plate mount, and the handlebars and the switch gear that I won't need. And of course, the lowering on the fork. Those are now off. Still have to do the swing arm and finish that up, but I need parts. Okay, I couldn't resist one last thing. Had the bike up, ready to store, in with the others. So I pulled off the swing arm extensions. These have a couple screws at the front. Remove them from the swing arm. Took the wheel off, there's the axle. And I removed the chain. All done. At this point, we have our brake caliper. The line is too long, so that's gonna have to get fixed. That's not gonna work. So I will cut that off, shorten it, put a new banjo on the end, and that'll be how I deal with that. Anyway, it'll have to wait till next week, but we're getting much closer. Just got to get the wheel fixed. I already have a chain, sprockets look good. The muffler is a little bit higher up relative to the swing arm now. I have not changed the mounting bracket on the muffler. I don't know that I need to, but I will leave it there for now. We will see if it drags in corners with the foot peg. That remains to be seen. Anyway, I need chain adjusters. I don't have any at all, so I have to stop here. Hopefully the parts will be here next week. Okay, time to go inside. That's it for today. I do have a pile of tires. There's the wheel on the bike.